ready to experience a world apart in the middle of the São Paulo metropolis. Cracklandia is a region where violence, drug trafficking, and misery go hand in hand, and where human degradation seems to have no limits. Only the brave venture into Crackland. This urban region is known to be one of the darkest places in the city of São Paulo, where violence, drug trafficking, and misery rule. It is a place that causes fear, where people in situations of social vulnerability live in the midst of filth, disease, and chemical dependency. Are you ready to get to know this frightening reality and find out what can be done to help these people? Then, come with us into the darkness of Crackland. Cracklandia is a term used to refer to a region in the city of São Paulo, located in the Luz district, close to the city's central region, which is known for its high concentration of crack and other drug users. The region is marked by social exclusion, violence, prostitution, drug trafficking, among other social problems that affect both drug users and residents of the region. Crackland is a complex social phenomenon, which involves issues such as the lack of effective public policies to combat drug use, the lack of access to jobs and decent housing, social inequality, drug trafficking, among other factors. The presence of so many drug users and people in vulnerable situations in the region ends up generating a series of negative consequences, such as the spread of diseases, violence, and social marginalization. In recent years, the authorities have tried to implement measures to deal with the problem of Crackland, such as treatment and recovery programs for drug users, public security actions to combat drug trafficking and the presence of criminals in the region, among other initiatives. However, this is a complex social problem that requires integrated actions and effective strategies to mitigate its negative impacts on society. Crackland is an example of a complex social problem that affects both drug users and society in general. This region is marked by social exclusion, violence, prostitution, drug trafficking, among other social problems that directly impact the lives of those who live or frequent the area. The presence of so many drug users and people in vulnerable situations in Cracklandia ends up generating a series of negative consequences, such as the spread of diseases, violence, and social marginalization. In addition, many of the drug users who frequent the region end up losing their social and family connections, which can lead them to even greater isolation and even more dangerous situations. Another factor that makes Cracklandia a social problem is its location near downtown São Paulo, which ends up affecting the city's image and the safety of those who live or work in the region. Many companies and commercial establishments have been impacted by the presence of Cracklandia, which can negatively affect the economy and development of the region. Therefore, the issue of Crackland is not only a social problem that affects drug users and the population in vulnerable situations, but it is a problem that affects all of society and requires integrated and effective actions to be solved. The issue of security in Crackland is one of the main concerns of the authorities and of the population that lives and works in the region. Due to the concentration of drug users, dealers, and people in vulnerable situations, the region ends up becoming a stage for conflicts and violence. Often, the police presence in the region is seen as a measure of repression and violence, which ends up generating even more conflicts. On the other hand, the lack of security in Crackland ends up affecting the lives of those who live or work in the region, increasing fear and the feeling of insecurity. In recent years, the authorities have sought solutions to improve security in the region, such as ostensive policing actions, operations to combat drug trafficking, and violence prevention actions. Moreover, a dialogue and approximation work has also been developed with drug users and social organizations that operate in the region, seeking alternatives to reduce violence and improve living conditions in the region. However, the security issue in Crackland is complex and requires a multidisciplinary and integrated approach that involves prevention, treatment, and recovery actions for drug users, as well as measures for social inclusion and urbanization of the region. Only with a broader and more strategic approach will it be possible to reduce the levels of violence and improve living conditions in Crackland.